What does it really mean to have movement freedom? Most people think freedom means adding more weight, but more weight doesn't make you capable. It makes you stronger in one direction.
No matter what your occupation is, no matter what you're doing, no matter the variety, you still probably have to explore other ranges of motion so that you can continue to have movement freedom throughout your life.
What can you do that can give you movement freedom?
When we just lift weights, you're not responding to stuff the same way eccentrically. Like, it's not even close. It doesn't match anything remotely close to what you end up with on the field of play.
When you're older, would you like to be able to hop up some stairs? How can you regress that? If I chip away at these skills, just like I started jiu-jitsu almost 10 years ago, and I have the skill I have now, you do that with anything.
So just a couple days ago, I was working with family friend's kid. His kid's name is Cade. And his dad said, hey, Cade, he runs with his arms kind of like stuck to his sides. I was like, hey, so do I. But he wanted his son to be able to like run a little bit more proficient for football.
Yeah.
And so I stuck him on the treadmill that I have at my house, and we worked on some drills and worked on some stuff where he was just bringing the arms up a little higher, pulling the elbow back a little bit further. And it's amazing because this kid's he's like 12, and he's able to pick stuff up, boom, just like that.
Yes.
And the way his body moves and stuff, I was like, all right, turn sideways. And I've had adults do this before, and adults like, what? They'll say, they'll look at me twice, then they'll grab the treadmill and they'll hold it, and then they'll shuffle sideways, and they won't move their arms. This kid was like, okay, boom. And he turned sideways, and he was just moving his arms perfectly. And then I said, turn around. And so he turned around, he went backwards, and then he went sideways again, and then he faced forward again. But it was amazing how quick it was to show him stuff and to teach him. And his dad, it was there as well. And his dad was like, he's like, holy shit, it's like, looks like a different person. I was like, well, I think at football practice, he's probably just running. They're just do these drills, go. And then plus he's a smaller guy, and he's a defensive back. And so he's covering the receivers and stuff. And so he's probably worried he's going to get hit by some big people on a football field. So he's probably a little nervous too. So he's probably just, running a little bit tight. He just needs to try to basically just loosen himself up a little bit. But, and I told the dad though, I was like, hey, it's nothing I'm doing. It was like, your son is just very athletic.
Yeah.
And this kid has spent his whole life on jet skis, water skis, four-wheeling motorcycles, all kinds of stuff like that. So has great body awareness. He's not maybe when it comes to baseball, football, and those other things, maybe he's not the best compared to his friends. But it comes riding a motorcycle and stuff, he's pretty badass with stuff like that. And so that stuff transfers right over really easily into a lot of other sports where he now has the potential or possibility to be better than a lot of his friends because of all the other stuff he's been playing since the time he was a little kid.
Yeah. Having that range of ability, the range of things that you said that he's been doing gives him a one up versus, for example, specializing in a sport. But I think that we can even take that idea and kind of transfer it to ourselves as an adult and even think of the future from there. Because first thing is when you get older, you naturally stop doing certain things. And we got a lot of videos we want to pull up today because, there's a lot of ways to be able to unlock a level of movement freedom as you get older. But one thing that happens is as you get older, responsibilities tie in. I think a joke on the internet is people like us talking about these things, and it's like, oh, okay, the unemployed are speaking, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, you guys have the time to do these things, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But the thing is everybody has a level of time for the things that they're interested in getting better at. So as you get older, we've talked about how people they stop leaving the ground, they stop jumping as much, and then at some point they try to jump and they pull a calf, or it gets harder, right? Their feet are weaker. All these things kind of pile on and make these abilities hard to show with your body, right? But I think what we can do is what we can envision isn't just, these abilities, but it's envisioning at 60, 70, 80, what would we like to be able to do? I remember you actually mentioning something years ago where you were mentioning, when you're in your 70s, you still want to be able to maybe squat 225, right? That's cool. Squatting 225 is a good goal. And I think a lot of people that maybe listen to this show have goals of lifting certain types of weight when they're older. But I think another thing to think about is what are the capacities of movement that you would like to have as you get older? And what are the steps you can take now to unlock those abilities and maintain those abilities? Because if you can start now and not think in a short time horizon where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this month, but think, okay, for the next decade, I'm going to start unlocking these abilities. I think it's going to be a really cool thing to do. And I think a good example is we have a video of our guy, Colton Engelbrecht, we've had on the podcast. Strongest powerlifter ever, you'd say?
Yeah. You got to tip your hat to him, although there are a lot of things happening with the deadlift bar. So,
so you got to tip your hat and take away?
Yeah.
You want to also take away a point because of sumo?
Yeah, it's sumo. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. He's going to go against John Heck coming up. Hack coming up, yeah. He's hauling ass uphill.
Now, I think a cool thing here is like, you look at it and it's not crazy impressively fast, and the form isn't the perfect sprinter form. But the thing is, it's like Colton's doing this right now. He's in his early 20s. Give Colton 3 to 5 years, and let's see the type of ability he has to sprint while also being able to lift thousands of pounds. And with that unlocked range and movement ability and power production, what more will that allow his body to do with a barbell?
He's doing a lot of really good things right there too. Like,
I wasn't meaning to sound like an asshole, by the way. I'm just saying.
No. Well, first of all, he's running up a hill.
Yeah.
And whenever you film running up, like this hill is probably very steep.
Yes.
Whenever you run up a hill, it doesn't do it justice. When you go to show the video, people are like, "Why are you moving so slow?" You're like, "Well, the hill's actually long and pretty steep." I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but
I feel what you're saying. I feel that comes from a dark place in your heart.
Yeah, it does for sure. That's a little baby hill. What are you doing? But he is doing a good job of like driving his knees.
Yes.
One thing you'll see from people that aren't maybe used to sprinting is their feet won't really come up that much. So he doesn't have a lot of like propulsion out of the back. The feet aren't coming up all that high to get maybe almost level with where the knee is or where the hamstring would be as you like pull your hip up. So there's a couple things like that. But his some people might look at his arm swing. Well, that's something he can work on. That's something he can get better with. But that's something that he feels comfortable with now. Well, I was talking about that kid, Cade, who was running on the treadmill. His father is a longtime construction worker and a blue collar guy. And and I've seen him, working before. He's done a lot of work on our house and stuff like that. And he's down on his knees. He's moving in all these weird positions. He's carrying all this. He's in all these weird positions, carrying things and doing all this stuff. But his name is Brandon. Brandon also taught his son all this stuff on the motorcycle, the jet ski, this skiing and so forth. And he grew up with a swimming background, and that's how the family knows him, because my wife and my brother-in-law were swimmers. But he still has a lot of his capacity, although his body is wanting to revolt on him a little bit because he needs to strength train and stuff like that. And so about 2-3 years ago, he started to strength train.
Nice.
And he started to kind of address, because just because you're doing construction work or just because you're doing some of that work doesn't mean you're not still developing weaknesses. You would think like, oh, I'm carrying paint today. I'm carrying water. I'm carrying whatever the different things are that you're carrying hammers and ladders and you're carrying things in all these different weird ways. You still probably need an exercise, which sucks. You still probably need an exercise regimen to kind of floss through and go through some of these other areas that you maybe don't always get to. Because let's just say maybe his hip doesn't get into particular ranges of motion where he's squatting, because he's probably either standing up or he's, climbing a ladder, or maybe he's just down on the ground.
Yeah.
He's probably really not getting in that. So you have to still, no matter what your occupation is, no matter what you're doing, no matter the variety, you still probably have to explore other ranges of motion so that you can continue to have movement freedom throughout your life, so that you don't get, your stuff's going to get stuck.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. But shit's going to get stuck. And with Brandon, over the last few years with doing like Peloton workouts, he comes over to my house and we do workouts together and stuff. he's been able to be way more productive at work.
Yeah.
And he's asking a lot of questions about nutrition and stuff. Now he wants to kind of bring that game up a lot because he knows that will help a lot more. But at work, he's way more efficient than he was just a few years ago because his body was kind of starting to break down, even though, again, he's lifting all this heavy shit for work all day.
Okay. An optimization thought from the unemployed for all of my brethren who are working and laborers. And by the way, I know any of you who are listening are like, fuck you, Nsima, you couldn't last a day in what I do. Probably not. But the thing that I think about when I think about all types of things in terms of movement is the loads that are happening on the body. So as you were mentioning, these amazing, strong laborers, and by the way, the strongest people I roll with in jiu-jitsu are typically laborers because they carry things for long durations. So it's not the same as just like doing quick movements in the gym. You're carrying things for minutes on end, up ladders, like for a while. Okay, so you develop a type of strength. But just like athletes in jiu-jitsu have a side that they feel most comfortable doing certain things, if you're a laborer, you typically have a side that you might put something on your shoulder or a side where you typically hold something heavy. You have these things that feel the most comfortable, and you're probably not going out of your way to lift something on the opposite side because you're thinking of efficiency, getting this job done comfortably. You're not trying to struggle. You're trying to get from point A to point B. You're not trying to think about trading.
3 reps on that side.
I gotta do 3 reps on this. Yeah. It's like, what the hell?
Right.
But that is probably something that would be good to think about if you're in this type of situation, doing these types of jobs. Because like, that's something that myself as a jiu-jitsu athlete, I had to think about because I have sides, my right side, that I do a lot of things toward. And that was causing me levels of like pain on certain sides of the body that I was doing a lot of the same movement, greasing that groove, right? So if you can think about that, and then you can try to even out movement, that could be something that could be very helpful for you in the long term. And along with that, like I'm gonna mention it, rope flow is something that like is symmetrical rotation on both sides of the body. And I'm not gonna go too deep into it here, but it does bring a level of decompression to both sides of your body, your spine, your shoulders, etc., which can help alleviate the pressures that you bring on your body through the work that you do. Because when you're putting something on your shoulder, when you're carrying certain things, there's a level of compression. Oh my God, Ryan pulled this up. That happens on one side of the body or both sides of the body. And the rope can help decompress. Have you seen this guy, Mark?
Yeah, he just trains one side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, on purpose. On purpose. It's gnarly.
What an experiment.
It's a horrible experiment. I wish he wasn't doing this to himself, but...
Does any idea if he suffers from any like pain or anything?
I mean, if he was, I mean, would he... I like, probably...
Does he just like shrug and do curls and stuff? Or?
He does everything on one side of his body and leaves the other side of the body out.
It said he did 100 days of just shrugging on one arm, on one side.
I think this is like a perfect example, actually, of like kind of what we're talking about here.
Well, yeah, you know, so your body starts to get, you know, unbalanced and stuff, and you start to walk a little differently and stuff. And again, you know, I hate to like say like everyone needs to train and everyone needs to do like lifting when they lift for a living. It's kind of a shitty message, right? But you probably do need something to like offset what you're doing. You know, you're on one side most of the time. Another thing too, a lot of construction people, like they get very smart with their work and they break their work up. So even though, yes, they're lifting stuff all day, they try to lift stuff together.
Yeah.
They try to slow down, like especially as they get a little older.
Efficiency.
They're like, I need to make more trips. When you're younger guy, you're going to grab as much shit as you can and you're going to try to, but you hurt yourself a couple times that way. And you're like, that's not the best route for me to go.
I want to give a quick example before we move on, because we're going to talk about quite a few things here today. But as I've told you, like I carry a sandbag every single day now. So like I'll carry it for maybe a mile or two, and it's around 60 pounds. And I'll transition it from like my shoulder to Zercher to the head to the other shoulder, etc. Right? And what I was noticing was like when I was putting it on this shoulder first, you can't just let this bag push down on your body. You have to use your body's structure to push up against it so it doesn't collapse anything. But what I noticed after like day 4 was like, ooh, I'm starting to feel some like discomfort in the scapula on this side, right? Well, it's because I was loading that side, but I wasn't feeling it as much on this side. And then I was like, okay, well, what can I do to free up those tissues, bring a level of decompression to that area, because I'm compressing this when I'm walking. So I grabbed my clubs, right? And I started doing club work. And the thing about swinging anything is that when you swing, especially something heavy, it will pull at not just the tissues, but it will help also pull at the bones as you let it pull. Right after I did that, I wasn't feeling anything anymore. And that's like, I already knew that like the rope is great for decompression. That's why like I do it after I lift, because it like just brings the body back to normal. But I realized, okay, so the club work is going to be an amazing remedy for all of the carrying that I do, especially on my scapula, because it's important to load your body. You should load your body. It builds bone density, resilience, all those things. But you need something to bring the body back to a level of evenness, right? And that's what learning to swing things can do for you. It can help pull at these different structures and bring them back to the length and level of freedom that they should have. So that was like really cool to feel firsthand.
I think even hypertrophy plays a role too, just like evening out one side versus the other. You used to that guy, he was all, he had all the muscle on one side.
Yeah.
He's working that one side all the time. And it's easy just to like, just bypass hypertrophy and just think it's all worthless and think it's just bodybuilding and it's just for show. And it's just like for someone doing the most muscular on stage or something like that. But the symmetry that they have, I think it is important to the body. Not that everyone has to be completely symmetrical. I think that if you were to probably pick everyone's body apart very carefully, you probably notice it may not even be possible. It might not be possible for someone's left bicep and right bicep to be the same size, and then their left forearm and right forearm and so on. Like they're probably going to have some different size, different shape, just due to various things. But I think trying to have some level of evenness to some of that probably makes some sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see somebody or someone tells you, they're like, man, I got this crazy shoulder, this crazy pain in my shoulder. And then you look at them and you realize that they're like, their whole body is like, tilted in this way. And it's something they maybe haven't even recognized.
I will never go to a doctor ever again about my general health. All they want to do is put you on pills.
Really well said there by Dana White. Couldn't agree with him more. A lot of us are just trying to get jacked and tan. A lot of us just want to look good, feel good. And a lot of the symptoms that we might acquire as we get older, some of the things that we might have, high cholesterol or these various things, it's amazing to have somebody looking at your blood work as you're going through the process, as you're trying to become a better athlete, somebody that knows what they're doing. They can look at your cholesterol. They can look at the various markers that you have, and they can kind of see where you're at, and they can help guide you through that.
And there's a few aspects too, where it's like, yes, I mean, no shade to doctors, but a lot of times they do want to just stick you on medication. A lot of times there is supplementation that can help with this. At Marek Health, these patient care coordinators are going to also look at the way you're living your lifestyle, because there's a lot of things you might be doing that if you just adjust that, boom, you could be at the right levels, including working with your testosterone.
And there's so many people that I know that are looking for, they're like, hey, should I do that? They're very curious. And they think that testosterone is going to all of a sudden kind of turn them into the Hulk. But that's not really what happens. It can be something that can be really great for your health, because you can just basically live your life a little stronger, just like you were maybe in your 20s and 30s.
And this is the last thing to keep in mind, guys. When you get your blood work done at a hospital, they're just looking at like these minimum levels. At Marek Health, they try to bring you up to ideal levels for everything you're working with. Whereas if you go into a hospital and you have 300 nanograms per deciliter of test, you're good, bro, even though you're probably feeling like shit. At Marek Health, they're going to try to figure out what things you can do in terms of your lifestyle. And if you're a candidate, potentially TRT. So these are things to pay attention to get you to your best self.
And what I love about it is a little bit of the back and forth that you get with the patient care coordinator. They're dissecting your blood work. It's not like you just get this email back and it's just like, hey, try these 5 things. Somebody's actually on the phone with you, going over every step and what you should do. Sometimes it's supplementation, sometimes it's TRT, and sometimes it's simply just some lifestyle habit changes.
All right, guys, if you want to get your blood work checked and also get professional help from people who are going to be able to get you towards your best levels, head to MarekHealth.com and use code POWERPROJECT for 10% off any panel of your choice. That's why, again, I think some people may think about those types of things and be like, oh, it's useless, just lift more weights. But it's one reason why lifting is good, and then having things that help the way you move through space, having that is also helpful, because that person, they probably have some inefficiency in the way they move through space. So can you give them some things that will allow them to do that versus just stacking weight on top of what they do? Right. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, I saw a video from Jason Khalipa a couple days ago, and he's always a psychopath.
Yes, he is.
He did 15 burpees every minute on the minute.
Yuck.
And I thought about this as a freedom too, just like a fitness freedom. You know, this ability to be able to do things for prolonged periods of time. And I've been messing around with some different stuff recently, doing some stuff that's timed, like timed medicine ball slams, timed medicine ball throws, timed walks, with weight and or distance. But yeah, Jason I think he did 23 minutes of 15 burpees every minute on the minute.
Nasty.
And he said it's one of the best fitness challenges you can do. He's just such a beast, especially at his body weight and stuff. Another local athlete who is a CrossFitter, Chad Augustine. Chad Augustine did the same thing, and he did it for 55 minutes.
Disgusting.
He's a smaller athlete who's very strong, from a calisthenics perspective. But it just kind of goes to show you there's these different levels that you can reach, and it allows you, you would imagine somebody that can do an hour, an hour of burpees basically, that they're going to have a great capacity for nearly anything. I mean, whether it be, obviously there's certain things that require a skill set.
Yeah.
But I'm talking in terms of just, physical endurance, a hike, a marathon. Could he go on a marathon? Sure. He could go run a marathon. He could do, it's just amazing how much opportunity you have when you have more mobility, or when you have your fitness intact to where you can kind of do these high level endurance events.
I think that's actually Ryan, can you pull up that video we have from Roy Gold? Now, Roy Gold, real quick, I want to mention Roy Gold was a guy who he used to work with Ido Portal. Now he's doing his own stuff. He has a lot of great information out there. But we want to play the audio of this too, so I'll shut up and we can restart it.
Control. What does it really mean to have movement freedom? Most people think freedom means adding more weight. But more weight doesn't make you capable. It makes you stronger in one direction. Most people train for control, but only in straight lines. What about chaos? What happens when you fall, twist, or need to catch yourself? Life isn't symmetrical. It doesn't care about your perfect form. You don't get to set the rules. You only get to react. Movement freedom is your body's ability to adapt, not just perform. It's the difference between being strong and being capable, between looking fit and being prepared for life. This is what we should be training for, to move into our later years with confidence, balance, and full functionality, to stay playful, to stay resilient. Strength eventually will fade, but adaptability, that's what keeps you moving for life. What is...
The way this man moves is just so fucking beautiful.
It's pretty damn impressive. I mean, you almost want to listen to that without the visual,
right?
Because the visual is intimidating. What he's able to do is so awesome. But you could just apply that to yourself for just where you're at right now, and just say I just need to not necessarily move like that, but I just need to move better.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's that's why I mentioned earlier. Look at some of the things that he's doing there, right? He even mentioned the idea of balance, right? You said, and at the very end of the video, you see him doing a handstand, and he comes up on one hand and he just gently sweeps the floor with the other hand. And in your mind, you might be like, oh, that's crazy. It's impossible. And then you might just turn it off. But think maybe can you do some balancing on one foot without anything? Can you, if you struggle with balance, because that's a big deal. That's a capacity that, like, honestly, it's funny. A lot of fitness kind of jokes around when it comes to balance. They'll see people doing stuff on Bosu balls and they're like, oh, what's the use of that, right? I'm not saying you need to use a Bosu ball, but I mean, think about this. How many people when they're older fall because their balance is kind of shitty? And I mean, were those people that did like things to actually improve their balance, single leg or whatever? And how can you regress it, right? So when you're older, would you like to be able to hop up some stairs? How can you regress that, right? It doesn't have to start with hopping up 8 stairs like Roy did.
Maybe 3.
It could be 3, could be just literally hopping in place, could be skipping when you're on a walk. Like,
You know what might be hard for you to do if you haven't done it for a while is hop up on one step that's short and then hop back down and go back and forth. Like you did that as a kid a bunch of times, but as an adult, you're like, you feel like you're going to fall.
yes. So that's the thing here. And you know, the funny thing is like Roy, I think Functional Patterns has used a lot of Roy's videos and they just, first they make fun of his accent, which I'm like, y'all are weird for that. Okay. You want to make fun of people's accents.
You have an accent compared to him, right? Like
There's a lot of things people can make fun of you for, but to make fun of somebody's accent is kind of weird. But then they also kind of they pull in videos of like Roy being injured and he had a cast at some point and talking about all of this quote unquote dysfunction. And Roy has a video that he's made before where he's talked about how, like, you know, not everything is perfectly in line. Sometimes injury does happen. And that can build a level of strength. That can build a level of resilience.
He seems to be a little bit like you and I. Like not everything we do is safe.
Nope.
Jiu-jitsu is not safe.
Nope.
Sometimes some of the exercises or some of the things that you may choose or some of the things I may choose might not be that safe.
And that doesn't mean you have to choose unsafe things, right? But like for some people, you know, you reach a certain point, you really want to just push the level of what you can do and see what you can handle, right? It doesn't mean you're going to break and never recover. It just means that maybe a tweak might happen and you'll have to take some time and do something else. But what I'm saying here is that, again, instead of thinking about what I can do this year, right? I personally have a lot of calisthenics goals that are maybe a 5-year, 10-year time horizon, right? And they're not immediate, right? But I understand that if I chip away at these skills, just like I started jiu-jitsu almost 10 years ago, chipped away at the skill, and I have the skill I have now because I gave myself a long time horizon and I was reasonable with the intensity that I went about it. You do that with anything. So again, as we're talking, think about your 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old self and think about some of the capacities that you want to have. And if you're already that age right now, you can still think about capacities you have when you get older, because I've seen people that were in their 60s and just started jump roping. And 3 or 4 years later, they're now like jump roping and hopping with a level of fluidity and balance. And think about that. Think about what that's going to give them as they get older. They can hop on one leg. I don't think they're that afraid of like maybe not balancing or even falling. You know what I mean? So these are just things to think about outside of just getting strong with the barbell, because that's one thing that he did address in that video, and I'm happy he did, because again, when most of us think about strength training, like we had Ripito on this show, we have many people that are prolific when it comes to strength training on this show. It's always your traditional standard types of movements, moving in one direction, moving in one plane. Let's think about this. Like, again, a lot of life happens in different areas, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't train in a traditional sense. But what that does mean is that you can have things within your practice that give you a level of movement variability and fluidity and even a level of creativity, right? That will then allow you to transfer that creative aspect into if you trip and fall, if you lose your balance in a situation, or just if you slip and you have to get into a long position, you have the ability to recover your body there. That happens to a lot of people and they just tweak something, you know?
You know, and I know, you know, some people, you know, listening, they might like lifting more, and we're not saying that you don't lift. Like I still think lifting is important. You know, I always make fun of David Weck because I'm like, you never lift. You're always like doing this like bullshit thing, getting himself away from lifting.
Did you see this man? I think he put a slingshot.
Oh yeah.
Body, and he was doing rope flow with the slingshot.
Yeah, and I saw
David is a wild man.
He's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But I'm always just kind of teasing him and having some fun with that. But I do think that lifting, like just flat out lifting, like doing some leg extensions, doing some leg curls, doing all these things that we've been doing for years, I still think they provide a tremendous amount of value.
They do.
However, if that's all that you focus on and you got distant from a sport from the time you were young, you're probably going to be developing some stiffness. You're probably going to maybe not be moving as well as you would like, and then you go to swing a baseball bat and you throw your back out, or you go to play some golf with some friends and you tweak something in your hip because you just haven't done anything remotely close to that. The other thing is I think that sports are awesome. It's great for people to participate in sports, but if it's been a long time since you participated in a sport, you actually would be better off training first.
Yeah.
You'd be better off like just start dribbling a basketball. You don't even have to be in a gym or anything, but rather than thinking you're going to go play some pickup game or whatever out of nowhere, maybe you start to, you don't have to like train for it, but just like practice a little bit, just shoot some hoops and grab some rebounds and just like jump a little bit while you're doing it. And then maybe in the course of if you are going to a gym, maybe you do work on some jumps. Maybe you do work on some strength training, because strength training can assist with being more resilient. It can also just make you feel good about yourself. Like that's the one thing with strength training, that it trumps everything else in terms of you being able to build really good aesthetics. You can build good aesthetics through a lot of other things, through calisthenics and stuff like that, but you have to have a capacity for calisthenics. If you don't have much capacity with calisthenics, if you can barely do 5 push-ups, you're not going to have a great physique from it. So all these things, they take time. And I think that the, lifting weights and stuff is valuable, because I also think that you can kind of overdo anything. So the guy, jumping on the stairs and doing all the various things, that's awesome. But if that's all that you do and you're not necessarily like lifting here and there, I think that you could be potentially putting yourself in more in harm's way, because you're just doing so much of that stuff and you're not embarking on anything slightly different.
Absolutely. Two things I want to mention. For the person who's interested in starting sports, if it's been a long time since you've done any type of activity that forces you to, or that makes you move fluidly in an athletic way, just side to side, all those things, rotating, all the jumping, etc., pick up a rope. Seriously, pick up a rope. And the one reason why I'm mentioning that is you're getting in rotation, you're getting in potential lateral movement, you're getting in literal movement creativity when you learn how to just like move fluidly, where you're not thinking while moving, you're just moving, and you're getting in breathing while moving through space in a creative fashion. Because when we think about what sports are, right? Sports are, there's sprinting, there's cutting, etc., but it is not programmed, the movement you do in sport, right? It is not like, okay, I will move laterally here for 2 steps, and I will move backward here for 2 reps. And there is no repetition. There is moving on the fly and reacting to the things going on around you by an opponent, a ball, etc. There's a lot of reacting and creativity when it comes to that. And that's one of the reasons why I like that practice. And I think that practice is good for any single athlete. I have a lot of people that they play tennis, they play basketball, they play all these different types of sports that are reporting back feeling better on field while fighting, etc., because of the ability to have movement fluidity and creativity in terms of the way you move. So that's very, very powerful. The second thing I want to mention for anybody who they've had a distance between themselves and fluid movement in terms of sport or anything is start learning how to never hold your breath. This is the thing that I notice when people start picking up the rope. This is the same thing that happens when people start jujitsu. When people start any type of new activity, even when it comes to something like hopping, there is a tendency to guard the body by holding the breath. And a lot of people, it's an instinctual thing because you want to keep safe, right? And if you're in the gym a lot and you're holding your breath with a lot of things that you do to keep braced, you have that tendency, it's going to uptick even more when you come to a fluid movement type of thing. But the thing you got to realize is that when you do anything with fluid movement, it's very rare that you're ever going to be holding your breath. Because if you hold your breath, your tissues tighten up, you seize up. Think about if you're trying to swing a golf club and you hold your breath to swing a golf club, you're going to pull something, right? So you need to remember, if you're starting to learn how to jump rope, if you're starting to learn how to sprint, if you're starting to learn how to do some rope flow, Always remind yourself to breathe and come back to breathing. And when you're learning something new and you find yourself holding your breath, pause, remind yourself to breathe and continue on, because that's going to be one of the things that keeps you safe throughout. Some people are listening to this and they're like, duh. But I'm telling you, there's so many people that this idea escapes them, especially as they're learning something new. They just have a tendency of holding the breath. So remember that as you embark on anything we're talking about here. So Mark, you have been loving wearing these Peluvas for a long time. Why is it that you like these shoes that look like this?
I'm trying to get my feet to be jacked. You know, I think it's funny how sometimes people will, when I wear these shoes, they're like, oh, those are different. And I'm like, well, maybe you should blame God, because this is the human foot. This is the way that it looks. But Peluvas are awesome because it's going to allow you to train your feet and train your toes and allow for that toe spread, because you got the 5-finger toe thing going on. It's like put on a glove for your feet. It feels amazing.
It's like walking around with toe spacers. You know, we've been working on our feet for a long time now. You always hear the benefit of people talking about like these tribes who have gone without shoes forever, and they have this toe space and have these amazing feet. And these shoes will allow you to just passively get that back by walking around.
You don't realize what a disadvantage you're at when your foot is all clumped together from the football cleats or soccer cleats or whatever else you were wearing when you were young. And so it's nice to be able to splay your toes. In addition to that, though, one thing I love about Peluva is the fact that it's not a regular barefoot shoe. I do love barefoot shoes as well, but it also has appropriate padding. And when you're stepping on some crazy pebbles and rocks and different things, like when I'm out on a run, some terrain is a little different than others. I don't have to be worried that I'm going to get some sort of stabbing, crazy thing happening to my foot, because it has an appropriate amount of cushion underneath the foot.
And guys, Peluva has a lot of different styles on their website. I think one of the newest styles they just came out with, which is a little bit more of a rigorous shoe, is the Strand ATR. It's not these are the Strands, but the ATRs have a little bit more. If you want to go hiking with them, you totally can.
Those are amazing. If you go out, throw those on and go sprint on a field, and your feet feel so strong, grabbing the grass and being able to actually grab the ground with your foot feels amazing.
I'm more of a chill guy with my Peluva, so I like the Zen slip-ons, but that's the thing. With Peluva, there's a lot of different options. So if you head to peluva.com and use code POWERPROJECT, you'll be able to save 15% off your entire purchase. And they also have toe socks. Their 5-finger toe socks are no show, so check those out too.
In jiu-jitsu, if you anticipate like you're going to land on somebody, they're going to land on you or whatever, do you try to actively not hold your breath? Is that something that you even have an opportunity to think about?
No, I don't hold my breath anymore. Like even when like having to, like when you have a break fall, for example, if someone were to throw me and I have to break fall, when I hit the ground, I'm actually going to exhale, because that's going to allow me to, that's going to allow my body to release, have a safe level of tension as I land and handle the impact of the ground. But if I held my breath, I'd be too tight, and that would actually increase my chance of getting injured if I were to break fall and hold my breath. It's not good. So that's why like you have to learn to use the breath and movement, because that's instinctual for me to break fall and right. That's instinctual. If I were to break fall and every single time I break fall I held my breath, I'd be having tweaks and problems right and left, right? So it's like it's a counterintuitive thing, because one would think, oh, if you're going to take a strike, like you see people that
or someone's going to land on you,
right?
Yeah.
No, you see a lot. You see a lot of times like people throwing punches, right? And they're standing there like, right? If someone will land on me, I have to brace, but I also have to brace and I have to allow, like if they were to land, it'd be a right? It's going to be an exhale that happens with the brace of my structure, I'm not going to hold my breath. If I hold my breath, I'm not going to be able to allow the force that's happening to go through my body. It would get stuck somewhere, and that would potentially cause a higher likelihood of getting injured.
And I think, in terms of like movement freedom and stuff, there's so much you can do, so much you can explore with even just some of your traditional lifting. You can kind of stretch and build mobility through a lot of movements. The Jefferson curl, it's not the only exercise that you can stretch on. You can stretch on many, all kinds of different stuff. Like even something like a bent over row could get a lot of stretch in the lats, a lot of stretch in the upper back, a lot of stretch in the hamstrings when you're doing these exercises. And these are things that over time, maybe instead of using the 45-pound plates, maybe you start using the 25-pound plates, because the weights can now get closer to the ground and you have more range of motion, or you could stand on something. you also, you have so many different versions of lunges. I know that Ben Patrick is a big fan of lunges, and then he kind of has some of the regression of those lunges, which sort of looks almost a little bit like a step up, where you have your foot, up on something. But you can just take a lot of your meathead lifts and add a little weight to them and still have them be something that's going to help increase your mobility. It might be easier to start with just your body weight to get used to some of these things, but even something like a slant board squat, and maybe instead of you loading up a ton of weight in a regular barbell squat, maybe the intention of squatting on the slant board is I want 15 reps controlled all the way down, all the way up, with the most amount of range of motion possible. And I'm just going to do it holding this 60-pound sandbag. Stuff like that, and you do something like that and you're like, it's kind of embarrassing that was actually kind of hard, or you do multiple sets of it in between doing some other things. That's the kind of stuff that I'm doing now because, some of the other twisty bodyweight stuff and things like that, I'm just not, I haven't even explored any of that yet. I'm still in the beginning phases of exploring some of my own movement freedom.
Before we pull up this video of Larry Wheels, did you guys see the video of Mike Israetel and Vernon Griffith?
I did not.
Okay. Ryan, I'm going to send you a video real quick and just give this let's make an edit here so that the next thing that pops up is like some of this video. Give me 10 seconds to find it because I know it's right here. Israetel.
Larry Wheels looks like each arm weighs like 27 pounds.
Because each of his arms does weigh 27 pounds, dog. Okay, Ryan, I'm sending you this video. And I want to preface this by saying that it was quite courageous of Mike to do this video and then post this video on his channel because he could have very well left this video on Vernon's channel.
Folks, I'm Dr.
But what Mike was going through here was a military, it's a test that Vernon Griffith, who we've had on this podcast, it gives people standards, right? So there's like a deadlift standard, a pull-up test, farmer's carries, bench press standard for your weight times your weight for 20 reps, a plank, an 800-meter run, etc. And there was also a long jump standard. So I think a good example is let's go to a minute 10. Let's go to a minute 10. Let's just let some of this play. It won't be very long, but
okay.
Yeah.
Physical fitness, about 70%. Load in, load in.
All right.
So that was like,
Nice and easy.
okay.
Per your command, right?
I respect it. So the first test in our performance standards is a broad jump. The standard here is going for height, and then we're going +12 and +12 for Be a Pro. The whole point of this is covering ground horizontally, accelerating with a good shin angle, sprinting, moving around a room, CQB, being dynamic, and also the mobility effect of landing in the hips, being able to land into our feet, maintain the arch of our foot, just a good expression of power.
I'm having us pull this video not to make fun of Dr. Mike because I think it's great that he showed this on his channel, but I think it's,
this is not what he does.
It is not what he
doesn't practice this.
But he also does jujitsu, and he's a jujitsu black belt, as he puts forward, right? And he is a jujitsu black belt. But at the same time, one of the things is you have to look at the way one trains, and the things that you do. It's can you add in, if you're someone who does purely bodybuilding and lifting, can you add in something that gives you an actual semblance of athleticism? Because one would think, if you just do jujitsu, you also should be able to do some stuff like this, right? But you notice when he makes a broad jump, he jumps and he can barely maintain a level of balance, as we were just talking about. Again, it's good that he's sharing this, but it's also good to think about, can I do the bodybuilding along with adding in things that allow me to hop without struggle, to balance okay, right? To just be able to have a level of movement freedom, because this is not movement freedom, right? And he again,
just hypothetical, say you had to jump across a pond. his shoes are going to get wet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And they did a lot of other tests, and Mike excelled in some of the lifting stuff. So he did well at the deadlifts, and he did well at some of the bench press. But when it came to like even some of the farmer carries, that was a bit of a struggle. Of course, the 800-meter run was a struggle. But it just makes you think, what can you do that can give you movement freedom?
I find that pretty interesting where he was doing the broad jump.
Yeah.
Broad jump is fairly difficult to like just do out of nowhere, but it is also very simple, right? One thing that interests me about that was that Mike Israetel has impeccable squat form. He can squat straight up and down.
So deep.
And he can bury squats. So if you go back to that, Ryan, like kind of almost where you had it freeze framed.
Are you talking about the jump or?
Yeah, the broad jump. Yeah, because if you watch the other individual do the jump, and again, these other people are practicing it. So again, I'm not trying to make fun of Mike Israetel in any way, and I'm not saying that I can do a better job, but the other guy that's doing the exercise, very fluently was able to get into this kind of lower squat stance to be able to do his jump. And something that's missing from the weight room, typically when we just lift weights, is you're not responding to stuff the same way eccentrically. Like it's not even close. It doesn't match anything remotely close to what you end up with on the field of play when you're playing, tennis, basketball, soccer, football, where you have to stop and start and all these things. And you have to have really low hips when you do that too. That's something we've heard several people talk about now on our podcast. Ben Patrick, Corey Schlesinger being another one, talking about that low shin angle. They just talked about the low shin angle here.
Yeah.
We're not really used to doing that much of that in the gym, maybe with a lunge, but the lunge isn't that dynamic. A lunge is relatively slow.
Yeah.
It's not really done that fast unless you're doing dynamic lunges and you're switching from one foot to the other. So just interesting because,
Look at the depth.
Yeah, you could see how nice and low he got there, but it was hard for him to transfer his power into something measurable for this broad jump.
Yeah.
It just shows you how specific that squatting with weights is.
Yes. And it shows you also how, like, again, it's probably a good idea to have things within your practice, like some hopping. You don't need it. Like you can do some broad jumps. We had, Erwan LaCour here, right? And we didn't release any of the video, but him and I were doing some broad jumping, right? And Erwan even mentioned you can regress broad jumps. You can have a little thing that's like a certain way away from you that you can reach. Practice that.
That was cool that he was doing that with you. He had like things that you were jumping onto or jumping over, right?
Yeah. Just a goal. So you don't just like fucking bolt to some right? You progress it, but then you become comfortable letting that power flow through your body and moving in a smooth fashion, forward, backwards, to the side, etc. So again, this is a prime example. And this is also one of the reasons why I think it's a bit misinformed for people to look at certain aspects of what people call functional training and diss it, because like Mike has a tendency to do that with the videos he makes on his channel. He just made a video saying the kettlebell is a useless piece of equipment for the most part outside of like potentially strength endurance. And he does that quite a bit, but then you come to something like here, and I would assume that for most people out there, they want to be able to move like the first guy does. And the first guy's also built, right? Mm-hmm. So that would mean that there are some holes in the way that you're personally looking at your training or maybe spreading information on training where you can barely do a broad jump without falling.
I first started hearing about transcriptions from Thomas DeLauer.
Yep.
And, Thomas is somebody, it's an animal with working out. You got a chance to work out with him. I worked out with him. And he's kind of always on the front lines of like, finding out about these new companies that have cool things. But I didn't really realize that Transcriptions was the first company to put out Methylene Blue. And now look at Methylene Blue. It's so popular. It's everywhere.
It's one of those things. If you guys listen to this podcast, I'm very iffy with the supplements that I take because there's a lot of shady stuff out there.
You got to be careful.
The great thing about Transcriptions is that when people want to get Methylene Blue, usually they'll go on Amazon, they're going on these other sites. It's not third-party tested. It's not dosed. A lot of people end up with toxicity from the blue that they get because there's no testing of it. Transcriptions, they have third-party testing for the products. It's dosed, so you know easily what exact dose of methylene blue you're getting in each troche. So you're not making some type of mistake. There's not going to be anything in it. It's safe.
You can have it dissolve and you can turn your whole world blue if you want, or you can just swallow it. They have two different types of methylene blue. They have one that is, I believe, dosed at 16 milligrams, and they have another one that's dosed at 50 milligrams. So make sure you check the milligrams. I don't recommend anybody start at 50 milligrams, but the 16 I feel is very safe. You can also score the troches and you can break them up into smaller bits.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And in addition to that, on top of the methylene blue, they have a lot of other great products and stuff as well. They got stuff for sleep. They got stuff for calming down, all kinds of things.
I gotta say, I use it about 2 or 3 times a week. I use it before jiu-jitsu. And the cool thing that I've noticed, and I've paid attention to this over the past few months, is that after sessions, I don't feel as tired. So it's almost like I've become more efficient with just the way I use my body in these hard sessions of grappling. And it's like, cool, that means that, I mean, I could go for longer if I wanted to, and my recovery is better affected. It's pretty great.
I know Dr. Scott Schur, we had him on the podcast, and he talked quite a bit about how he recommends methylene blue to a lot of the athletes that he works with.
Yeah.
And they're seeing some profound impacts. And one of the things I've heard about it is that it can enhance red light. So those of you doing red light therapy, or those of you that have some opportunities to get out into some good sunlight, it might be a good idea to try some methylene blue before you go out on your walk or run outside or whatever activity it is that you're going to do outside.
And this stuff is great, but please, like, first off, they have that stuff for staying calm. They have stuff for sleep. But remember, this stuff isn't a substitution for sleep. This isn't a substitution for taking care of your nutrition. This is supposed to be an add-on to all the things that we already should be doing. And it's going to make things so much better if you're doing everything else too.
And I think this is just a little different too than just adding some magnesium to your diet. I think this is a little different than...
Yeah.
You know, treat these things appropriately. Make sure you do some of your own research. But
if you're taking medications, SSRIs, you better talk to your doctor first. Don't be popping these things.
And if you're taking any medications at all, it'd be good to double, triple, quadruple check and make sure that you're safe. Transcriptions has a lot of great things that you need, so go and check out their website when you have the opportunity. Strength is never weakness, weakness never strength. Catch you guys later, right? And unless you're primarily just bodybuilding, but even bodybuilding, look at, I know Arnold is like, he's the
pinnacle.
Yeah, he's the pinnacle of everything, but Arnold looked athletic when he was young.
He did.
He looked amazing. And then you even see him like running and stuff. And
you see him in slow motion, just like pecs jiggling.
Yeah, it's like, it's pretty smooth. I don't know if it's like super high level, but it looks pretty good. But then you also have Chris Bumstead. And, you know, Bumstead is an outlier as well. Like, I don't know.
Vertical jump.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he did his vertical jump recently just off of that, like, platform.
Yeah.
And he seemingly did that out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know. He's, like, not jumping and not doing anything. But maybe, you know, Bumstead doesn't have as much distance as maybe Mike did from sports. Like, who knows what sports Mike did growing up or didn't do growing up. Makes a big difference. Oh, yeah, Arnold is just running and jumping.
But you
this
see
is great.
that it doesn't show the jump.
Yeah. Doink.
He jumps like across the field or something.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But you know, the thing about CBum, and Mark, you've mentioned this before, is that think about how far was CBum actually removed from soccer? That was his main sport. So how many years? Like he probably played soccer at 17, 18. And I think CBum's in his mid-20s. So it's not that long.
Yeah, maybe 8 years or something, or 10
right?
years.
And his ability to probably still produce some level of athletic power is still there. So again, for all of you that really love lifting, but try to have things that don't remove you too far from your athletic ability, right? Because again, this is another thing when it comes to Mike is, I think Mike did wrestling and he does jiu-jitsu, but he's probably a bit far removed from doing any of those things with a high level of intensity. So he can get those things back. It's just, he probably needs some things that will give him a little bit of that input. I wonder
if he's working on some of it, you know, based on, him doing that video.
Maybe. But like, again,
that'd be cool.
Yeah. Again, it's like, I didn't have us pull up that video. I'm not trying to have us like totally shit on Mike. That's not the goal. But the goal is like to see this and have that inform the things that you do in your own personal training, you know?
How old is Mike? Any idea?
I think he's in his early 40s. Early 40s.
Yeah. So again, people that hopefully people are seeing this before they're 40, you know, but if you're seeing it and you are 40, then you can start to do stuff about it now. But if you're seeing stuff and you're 30, you're 28, it's just a good idea just to keep some stuff in your training regimen so that you don't end up with some of this, just like dysfunctional movement is really what it is. You start to have some dysfunctional movement as you age if you're not doing the stuff. And that's the thing that I think about. And that's what I shared with this kid, Cade, that I was showing him run on the treadmill. I said, you know, I move stiffer and different than you, not just because of my age, but it could potentially be because of my age, but more so, it's more likely due to the fact that I spent a long time without doing other sports other than powerlifting, if we want to call powerlifting a sport.
And that's why I love seeing Colton do what he's doing, because Colton's fighting that right now. I'm telling you, like, I saw people in that post kind of like
he wants to get into strongman and stuff too, so I think he's already looking for some of that variety.
That guy, man, I'm so pumped to see him progress. It's really cool. I think a lot of people, all of us, can kind of learn from that, especially those who are really into lifting. So, did you want to? What do you want?
He's Colton is getting ready to battle against John Hack, and do we know when that is?
Not sure.
I saw that they have like they're going by like a body weight type thing. I think they're supposed to weigh a certain amount of weight. They had like particular rules about like deadlifting, and it looked like they kind of set some parameters. I think it's really interesting because John has been in a much lighter body weight class, right, for a long time. He's been more like 220 and 198.
Is John getting heavier for this?
I think he is, but I think that they're still going to have a gap in their weight, because I think that Colton, I think, is like 260 or something, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's really interesting, but I think John's going to really have a hard time. Like there's some distance there in the squat and in that deadlift, but if the deadlifts are both done conventional,
he has apparently the 110 kilo, 125, and 140 kilo.
Jesus, what a monster!
At time world record.
Damn. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome to see those guys. I think we need more stuff like that, you know. And I don't know if that one's like sponsored by anybody, if it's sponsored by like Rogue or something, but that'd be really cool to see that. I was even thinking like, you know, how about like some sort of deadlift competition where it's just like deadlift the damn thing whatever way you can and just see who can do the most amount of weight. Because you get those guys doing their sumo pulls and stuff like that too. And you know, I don't know, with straps, without straps, I'm not sure exactly, but probably without straps would probably be best, because those guys could probably lift like 1,200 pounds sumo.
Yeah.
With straps on or something like that. Anyway, strength is never weak this week. This is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.